Hello, my name is Georgina Bone and I work for the Somerset NHS Foundation Trust as part of the Community Pain Management Service, and I'm going to talk about persistent pain. I would like to explain a little bit about the nature of persistent pain, as well as giving you some ideas on how to manage it. Understanding persistent pain. Although pain is something that almost everyone has some experience of, it can be very difficult to make sense of it. We can group pain into two major categories. One is acute pain, and the other is persistent pain. Acute pain is the one that most people have experienced. It usually occurs in the event of some kind of injury or damage and acts as a warning alarm for us. For example, warning us to keep our weight off a broken leg or not to use a hand with a cut on it. As the injury heals, then the warning alarm fades and we return to normal. This fits in with the ideas about pain that most of us will have learnt at school. Namely, that pain occurs when the receptors positioned at the end of our nerves in the body are activated by damage. These receptors look something like this and are also known as Nauticepters. They are essentially free nerve endings which are activated in certain specific situations. Typically, they respond to pressure, heat, and/or chemicals, and so can detect damage to tissue, for example our skin or muscles, or the threat of damage. They then convert this information into electrical signals, which is transmitted to the central nervous system, the brain and the spine, via the nerves. If we take the example of accidentally touching a hot pan, the receptors in the skin are triggered by the heat. These receptors send pain signals to the spinal cord and the brain via the nerves, and then another signal is sent from the spinal cord to our hand, telling us to let go of the pan and move our hand away. When we let go of the hot pan, the pain fades, or if we have burnt ourselves badly enough, it stays until the burn has healed. So far, this seems like a relatively straightforward situation, but pain doesn't always work in such a straightforward way. Anyone who's ever had a paper cut will know that a relatively small injury can cause a lot of pain, but equally, sometimes people can experience a very significant injury and yet not feel much pain. We often hear of these sorts of events on the battlefield or serious accidents. It is even possible to experience pain in a limb that is not there anymore, which is called phantom limb pain, and sometimes people can experience pain long after an injury has healed, or experience pain where there is no clear medical reason or biological damage to trigger it. Now is a good time to pause this video and see if you can think of any other cases in which there might be damage to the body, but no pain, or pain but no damage. These cases can fall into the category of pain we call persistent pain, but you might also have heard of it called chronic pain, or sometimes functional or medically unexplained pain. Persistent pain can be thought of as a deeply unpleasant sensory and emotional response that has lasted for more than 3 months, and can be after an injury has healed as well as it's going to, or have no medically identifiable trigger. To understand how this type of pain works, we need a little bit more detail. If we look closer at the mechanisms behind pain, we see that the situation is more complex than it first appears, because although receptors in the body do send messages to the brain, these receptors are in fact sending messages almost all of the time. The brain is constantly receiving information from all over the body, and it is the brain that decides how to interpret these signals. How the brain does this depends on all of the other data the brain has access to. The brain is constantly monitoring things like our mood, how stressed we are, what's going on around us, but also our memories of events and what we're expecting to happen. The brain uses this information, amongst other things, to determine whether or not to interpret those signals as pain. For example, if you've been feeling very stressed, overwhelmed, or worried about something, then your brain is likely to determine that it's under threat and may decide to increase the volume of existing pain signals or to interpret normal signals as pain. If, on the other hand, we're feeling relaxed and happy, or that we can manage whatever is in front of us, the brain may even turn down the volume of the pain. Many people have the experience of pain not getting in the way as much when they are enjoying what they're doing. This video by Lorimer Moseley provides a useful example of how pain works. One of the key points to pick out in this video is the role that memory played for Lorimer Moseley. Despite not consciously thinking about it in that moment, his brain drew the link between his past experiences and the scratch on his leg, and use that to inform his reaction. It was not purely influenced by the signals coming from the receptors at the injury site. Another factor in persistent pain is that the brain itself is very adaptable. Our brain cells communicate with each other because they are connected up in what we call neural pathways. You can think of these as roots or wires which get laid around the brain, allowing different cells to communicate with each other. The more a route is used, the more the connections are strengthened, and the more dominant that particular pathway becomes. We call this neuroplasticity. It is very important because it allows us to learn and improve our skills in any given area. For example, learning to read or write or drive a car. It also allows the brain to recover some or all functioning after an injury, like a stroke or a brain injury. Unfortunately, this also means that the brain can become more sensitive to threat or stress over time, as the pathways associated with this are rehearsed and strengthened. In the same way, the brain's pain response can also become more and more sensitive over time, with the pathways involved in the pain response becoming more and more dominant. So, although acute pain is meant to act as a warning and as a protective mechanism, in the case of persistent pain, the system has become faulty. It's a bit like a computer with a virus. The hardware of the computer still works as it should, but the software, that is the programming of the computer, is faulty, and that prevents the computer systems working as they should. If that all sounds a bit complex, we can think of persistent pain as being like a faulty or overly sensitive alarm system, not necessarily warning you of danger, and very unhelpful when you're just trying to make some toast or get some sleep and the alarm keeps going off. Other metaphors which can be useful include pain as a magnifying glass, or also as an amplifier, or as a volume dial, where you can think of the volume of pain as increasing or decreasing depending on what is going on in your brain and the world around you. This may all seem quite negative, but we can use this understanding to make positive changes as well. Just as the brain can become more sensitized to pain signals, it can also become less sensitized to pain signals. It may not be possible to change the signals coming from the nerves in the body, but we can influence some of the other messages the brain is receiving. Then this can influence how the brain is interpreting pain. This is why, as a service, we focus on reducing the volume of the pain wherever possible and helping people to develop ways of doing what is important to them and building their quality of life without the faulty alarm signal of pain becoming overwhelming. By reducing these negative impacts of pain and reducing the stressful and threatening inputs to the brain, we can help turn down the volume of pain, making these signals more manageable. If you would like more information on this idea, this video is a useful one to watch. We also have other videos available which look at specific areas of managing persistent pain in more detail, including stress and mindfulness, anxiety and sleep. If you would like more information about the management of persistent pain, you can look at our website, or you can ask your health professional or GP for a referral to our service. We hope that was helpful, and thank you for watching.